What's good, Wagering World? It's your boy Five Star in Vegas, broadcasting live as always from beautiful Summerlin, Nevada. In it with my co-host, my guy, the only Sacramento Kings fan that I know. What's good, Spread Astaire? How are you this morning?
Well, I'm good, man. We had a pretty good night of playing tournament action last night, and that continues. I love the one and done aspect. You know, I the first game of a 7-game series is always fun, but there's always a chance, right, that the other team comes back, and so you can't take too much away from it. I love the one and done aspect. I had a great time watching the games last night. What did you think of it all?
We had a great night, so we really enjoyed it. Let's get to the past and break it down.
First game that we had was the Atlanta Hawks, and they were in Miami taking on the Heat. The Atlanta Hawks became the first number 8 seed in history to win the 7-8 game. The 7 seed was 4-0 in playing history. So the Hawks became the first team to get that win. Now they take on the Boston Celtics. And I'll tell you what, we're shocked. We, doing the playoff previews up until yesterday, we had been planning for Miami versus Celtics. We had been breaking down Miami versus Celtics, and now we throw that out the window as the Atlanta Hawks will be the team taking on the Boston Celtics. You and I were high on the Hawks yesterday. We said if you bet that game, you gave out Hawks plus 4.5, and I said if you bet that game, it's Hawks or pass. Don't lay the 5 with Miami. And not only did that turn out to be true, but they win outright. Trae Young gets there in the last second for you. And that's one of those things where, because I did like the under there, but I had Miami winning. He doesn't get that foul, right? The auto foul, if the Hawks aren't winning that game. Right? So good handicapping there, seeing that, hey, this is going to be tonight. The Hawks turn it around against the Heat. They had traditionally done really poorly against the Heat, and they turn it around. And you had a great call there. What did you see there from the Hawks defeating the Heat? And do they have a chance against the Celtics at all?
I don't know if they have a chance against the Celtics. What they do have in their favor is having Trae Young. He's an awesome postseason performer. He's been that way since he stepped into the league. He's elevated these Hawks into a team that tends to always play, a little bit higher than expectations inside the playoffs, and that's a good thing. I told you before the game started, they had put out that information about everyone was up for trading on the team, and those guys played like it yesterday. So great job by the Hawks. As I told you before the game started, Miami I worry about because of age. Miami is a really old team, and they looked like it yesterday. They looked really, really old, and I love the way that Quinn Snyder had the offense rolling against the Hawks. Like, this is playoff basketball. He made the perfect adjustments. Um, if a lot of people don't remember that it was a whole different coaching staff and philosophy most of the time when Miami was dominating Atlanta during the regular season. And Quinn Snyder brought some brand new actions and took advantage of a lot of the things that Miami was successful against the Hawks in the regular season, stopping them with defense, with the zones and the traps, and getting the ball out of Trae Young's hand. And he was really hunting for Kyle Lowry. Lowry had an amazing offensive game, but defensively he was a real hazard, and that's why he's probably not in the game a lot. And he made sure to get a lot of mismatches where they took advantage of him with different guys like DeAndre Hunter, DeJounte Murray. We forget this Hawks team is really built for the playoffs with the pieces they added. They really did a good job. DeJounte Murray is a great half-court guard for the postseason. Takes a lot of pressure off of Trae Young. Trae Young doesn't have to log so many minutes, and Quinn Snyder was able to keep him fresh. And he looked real confident leading the team. And it just looked like, as we said before the game started, the younger, fresher, better team with a better roster, and they really played that way. Big minutes out of Kokowanu from out of USC.
Okongwu? Onyeka Okongwu?
Okongwu has a chance of being a star, man. He's a good player, and Clint Capella is still really solid. They were killing him on the offensive glass. John Collins continues to be a hawk, even though he's up for trade every year, and he still always comes to the playoffs and plays hard for them. So they got John Collins crashing the board, and who was really impressive was the young kid Jalen Johnson out of Duke. After he settled down, he was a real factor and gave them some really good minutes. So the Hawks looked really good, man, and it was just a good victory. Now, do they have action with the Celtics? Once again, as we know from the NFL and the NBA. It's a different season when the postseason starts. And if you look at the Hawks and their playmakers, if they can settle down and Quinn Snyder with the type of coach that he is, he might have an advantage on Missoula in Missoula's first playoff series. So don't be surprised if the Hawks, win a couple games against the Celtics. I think that they can at least steal one.
Yeah, definitely one. Because when you have a team like that, if they get hot, they're gonna right. All they do is get hot from behind the arc, and they can get one. I think if I'm a Boston fan, though, I'm happier about this matchup.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
Because even though I do believe the Celtics would have beat the Heat, it would have been a more physical game, and
Yep.
they would have been worn down more. I think this is better for them to be able to run up and down the court.
But the Hawks were under. We're going by the past Hawk finesse teams. If you look at them, how did they beat the Heat? They beat them up on the offensive glass yesterday.
But I didn't really think that was a factor of them being physical more than they just have the size. When the Heat
Right.
run Bam out there and then they're running 3 guards and Jimmy Butler at the 4, that's a small lineup.
Yeah. Right.
I didn't. They weren't out there
Capella.
coming out like Draymond Green or Dylan Brooks stuff, like really
But
bullying. They're just bigger.
Capella,
Okongwu, yeah.
Awanu, Hunter. Hunter was a 4 his whole time in college at
And Collins
Virginia.
is a natural
Yeah.
4 and can run a small
Collins was a
outside.
4 his
So
whole time at Wake
yeah.
Forest. They're a big team. They're bigger than, and Jalen Johnson is 6'10". A lot of people don't realize they're a bigger team than we
Did Jalen
realize. But
Johnson go to Duke?
yeah.
Now, he was a player that I was kind of excited about when he was drafted. I
Hmm.
watched all regular season. He didn't get a lot of healthy run. And
Hmm.
I mean that when the team was healthy, he didn't get a lot of run. That's
Yeah.
something that Quinn Snyder made an adjustment with. And I felt that was, a product of veteran coaching to say, hey, the young kid's got the hot hand. He's got the size. Let's just let him run, even though this isn't our normal rotation.
Quinn Snyder won that game yesterday. That's what I was
Yeah.
saying. Like, we know the type of X and O guy he is compared to Nate McMillan. Nate McMillan is one of those old school Doc Rivers style coaches, but he more concentrates on defense. Doc is more of an offensive coach. But what I mean by that, he kind of lets the guys run the play. He's usually ex-point guard, so he kind of lets the team run their own stuff, kind of like Silas does with the Rockets. Whereas Quinn Snyder has a great feel, being a former point guard himself, but not as talented as Nate McMillan was, and not making it to the NBA as a star. So he's more of the guy who can feel out like, okay, this is the time when we need to go, and this is the time when I need to get involved and call a play from the sidelines and make sure we're getting a good set. And every time the game got close and the Heat got it to around 6. He made the right timeout calls and he made the right play calls to make sure that they got a good bucket, man. And he was really going to DeAndre Hunter a lot on some great plays that he set up, being able to take advantage of the fact that he knew that they would be overplaying Trey Young. It was some really great coaching by Quinn Snyder.
Yeah, I agree. Good performance there from Quinn Snyder. And, so to move on, I was hoping, right, as the Kings fan, Lakers hater than I am, could we see 2 number 8 seeds in the same night
Right.
for 40, 44 minutes of the game? It
Yeah.
felt that way. The Lakers came through in the end, and I'm going to catch some flack on the next show, the NBA rundown that I'm about to do. Because I've been calling for Anthony Edwards to take over the team. I've been calling for Karl Anthony Towns.
You and I both.
Yeah,
So,
and I
yeah,
said
don't
Anthony
feel
Edwards is going to be the best player on the floor, and he had one of his worst performances in a big game as a pro, Anthony
Yeah.
Edwards. And Towns looked fantastic. The problem with Towns is the same reason that we've always been calling for Edwards, though. He still does some of that janky stuff there at the end of the game. Like, his body language is terrible.
Yeah.
Like, when he gets a foul called on him, he looks like a little kid, who, like, gets in trouble. And he's like, Dad, how come I can't, do something stupid, and like starts pouting. The fifth foul that he got, yeah, I do think Davis embellished it, right? But he put himself in a bad position to even be able to do that. And then that was also a mistake by Chris Finch because you notice they moved him off Davis when he came back in for number 5.
Yeah.
Right. And they said, we're going to have you cover Jared Vanderbilt because we can't have you getting hunted. I was disappointed. I really wanted the Timberwolves to win, not only as a Lakers hater, but kind of like maybe a feel good story for a guy Towns that we've been down on. But you
Yeah.
see the talent. He's a great shooter. He's got nice touch in the paint, and he's a really good passer. Right? It's the body language, and up here that really what you and I are questionable about. Right? That's
Yeah.
where our questions come from. For 45 minutes, he looked like he was going to dispel the motion. Let's throw away that stupid foul against Davis because Jaren Jackson does that too, right? I mean, it's not the first player to be foul prone. But at the end of the day, the story seemed the same, right? With Towns throwing his body around, looking all confused, and his team doesn't win the game.
He has so much talent. We talked about this before the game that expect Cat to show up tonight. I knew that he was going to show up for them last night, and he did, and he played really well. I did not expect Anthony Edwards to lay an egg. He played like he got one of those mysterious phone calls with some threats, and he didn't react to it well. He looked shook all night, man. I think they got to him. I
Well,
think so.
I
He
don't
looked
know
shook
about
all
that.
night,
So
man.
on the show, the NBA rundown we did, Tyler was pretty adamant that Jared Vanderbilt was one of the worst matchups for Anthony Edwards. Not
Right.
only physically, but they spent a lot of time playing against each other,
They're
right? So he
buddies. They're
knows the
homeboys. He
tendencies.
knows they're homies.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
And
knows his
so
tendencies. Yep, you're right.
I think that had a lot to do with it. And
A lot of length, because he's taller than Anthony, and Anthony's used to being able to shoot over guards. He's used to usually
yeah,
being, he's 6'7", so he's used to being taller than those guys. And you got Vanderbilt is 6'9", 6'10", so and he can move. Yeah, that's a great point by Tyler, man. That's definitely was a factor in this game. But man, it was a great game overall just to watch. And one thing that I noticed about Timberwolves have a really good roster. Like they have a bunch of good glue guys. They're missing one of the top ones in Nas Reed because he's one of those other guys. But they got some winning players like Nas Reed, Kyle Anderson. I liked him since he was at UCLA. He's so long, so versatile. He was a point guard at UCLA, and now he plays small forward in the NBA. You saw some of the blocks he made on AD. Like he's 2 inches shorter than this guy and D'ing him up, giving great effort. Teron Prince played really well. We expected him to play well. He always is going to give you 3 and D. Mike Conley, the veteran, played well, even though that I don't agree with that last call that they called a foul on Anthony Davis. I think that was a little extra drama that they wanted to add to the game because I don't know if that was a foul or not. But they have a
you're
really good
telling
look.
me, bro, I had the under in the plus 8.5.
Oh my God!
I'm like, no, but it was funny because even at that point, they would have needed a 38-point overtime.
Overtime. Yeah, you were good on
Right.
all
So
that.
I
We
was
was good
still
on all
feeling
that.
good, but I've seen double overtimes happen. I've seen a
And
bunch
I'm
of
like, man,
fouling.
I just my luck. The Lakers are going like a 9-0 run soon as the
Yeah.
overtime starts, and
Yeah.
then they'll never
Right.
catch it. Because I've seen
As a
Minnesota
couple
lay
times
it
it was
down like
quick.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Edwards had a big dunk for us to save
to save
that
the
saved our
cover.
cover right there when they recut it to 3 with less than a minute to go.
But what I took from this game, okay, and another thing, Anthony Edwards said before this game that they could go as far as Cat takes them, and that was surprising that he kind of was deferring to Cat. So maybe those guys are gelling. Maybe it can work out. I don't see how their games really meshed as much, but I was more worried about their relationship in the locker room because they have different type of personalities. So maybe they get along. Maybe everything's going to be okay. But they got a cool nucleus over there. I think that they competed well. They almost won the game. Like missing another one of their winning glue guys that we talked about yesterday as well. Him breaking his hand, punching the
Jaden
wall.
McDaniels.
Jaden
Yeah.
McDaniels,
Mhm.
so they have a really good group of players over there. If they can just, continue to build around Ant-Man, and I guess they're going to stick with Towns. I mean, he has a contract that's not going to expire anytime soon. He just got maxed out. So Maybe they're building something nice over there, but like you said, he needs to go see a sports psychologist or something about his attitude and the way that he moves. But these guys are products of their environment, and his dad obviously is kind of that same type of guy. I think so. He kind of patterned himself after him, and I mean, it's worked. He's got to the NBA and signed a max deal. So, you know, who are we to judge? But it doesn't look good on TV. His body language never
He's
does.
got
But
to be the number two there.
yeah, yeah,
Because
and
he
I
can
think he's
score
willing. I
and he
think he's
can
got
shoot
the
and he can
attitude to
stretch the
do it.
floor.
I
Yeah.
think he got. I think he has the attitude to do it, and I think that's why they got Gobert because their GM and front office is pretty good over there. Those guys are
I think
doing
so too.
yeah,
But Coach brought up a good show. Remember when we had Coach Goodman on a long time ago?
yeah,
Finch might not have been the right candidate for the two big lineup
right,
because
right,
of his
right,
inability. And I saw that last night where I thought the defense looked more fluid with Cat at the five because of the way that they employ their schemes. They put Cat in a drop and then they switch on everything else.
yeah,
Um,
exactly,
and so when you have two guys that you're having in a drop, which is how it kind of worked with Vogel, he was talking about Vogel being a real good guy in the two big defense. It's way different.
yeah,
It's a lot tougher for the three guards, whereas this
right,
is really easy. When do you switch? When do you stay home? So
yeah.
yeah, and I can't wait to talk about it Friday. Is Rudy going to come back? I was watching that game last night, like I wouldn't bring him back.
Yeah, they might
You're
as
at
well try.
home.
Yeah, you might as well just go on and let them sit out, make them come out in street clothes and kind of send a message like, hey, we're not going for that on the team and use that as the excuse to
Yeah.
really play a better style that fits your team better because you're either one or the other. They got to have either way it's Gobert and it's Ants. He's the first option, or they got to go with Cat and Ant. They play together well, or it's Ant and Rudy. Rudy and Cat don't play well together. They don't mesh good. Far as the Lakers. Um, Anthony Davis was contained. He still had 24, but he had went out for 38 twice on the T Wolves this year with Gobert. So they did a really better job as we talked about on defense this game with Minnesota containing him. LeBron, do LeBron type things, big three, in the fourth quarter. Um, it was so funny. He made the pass, and I'm like, they're giving him more props for the pass than they're giving Schroeder for making the 3-pointer, and it was a great moment. Unfortunately, it wasn't the ending play because we had to go to overtime and everything. But D'Angelo Russell had
What's
disappointing
that thing where
performance.
they're looking like they're all shooting up?
That ice in the veins. They're doing it for
Oh, is that
D'Angelo
what that
Russell.
is?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I'm
ice
like,
in the
why are they
veins.
all acting like they're shooting up
Yeah,
right now?
yeah, ice in the veins. D'Angelo Russell. Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
ice in the
I got it.
veins.
I was wondering what they were all doing.
Yeah, the Lakers. They're going to have a difficult time with Memphis. From watching that game last night, it was so funny. Charles Barkley said, "Look at LeBron. Look at LeBron out there. His age, still playing his tail off in a play-in game." He was like, "LeBron's playing really hard in this play-in game." I said, "Oh man, Barkley's he's something else." But
I hate how they do that though. We talked about this last year when they made fun of the Timberwolves. Why are
yeah,
you gonna dog on your own product like that?
well, he's talking about it because LeBron brings a lot of his
Well,
own
and
stuff.
but that's their
I think
thing.
LeBron's the best player in history because of his longevity and stats. You know how I feel about him on that and
Yeah.
his size. I think he's just a better player than Michael Jordan was, but I think Michael Jordan was just the guy. So, and we can't argue change the game, his uh his style of play, his winning, all these great things that Jordan did. Played great defense. Jordan was an unbelievable player. He's GOAT status. But I believe LeBron just over long, just kind of like the Brady type of situation. He's just been there so long. He's won. He's done this. So I give him a lot of respect, but stuff like putting a crown on your head to capture the eighth seed, and he just does puts his foot in his mouth sometimes. So that's why Barkley's laughing like, because if you're so good, why are you guys even in the playing game? You know what I mean? So
And they're not announcers like the NFL.
right,
They are kind of paid for comedy. But I'm just
right.
saying, you think that if CBS got on there and made fun of a team for celebrating after a wild card win, that Roger
Yeah.
Goodell wouldn't be on the phone with Ian Eagle
Do you
or
remember?
whoever.
Oh yeah, there's a different structure. They just, they let inmates run the asylum in the NBA. Like ex.
Even on the announcing, it's
Yeah, that's
crazy.
what I'm saying. The ex players, or that's all you see in the NBA. They let them do what they do, and it's their product. That's their branding. Because
I
you
just think
making me
they
think.
come off as haters a lot of times. I'll be
No,
honest.
it
I've been
was
watching
no,
that
it was
show on TV
hilarious.
too.
I like it. I like that they're being real because it was hilarious when they was playing that music and had Pat Bell standing on the
No,
table, and
it is comedy. It is comedy.
it was hilarious. Like he won a championship.
He's
He's in
like, yeah.
playing. Yeah. And I'm like, man, it's only been two occasions that this happened. When Jordan won, Kobe won, and D Wade. Three occasions.
Yeah.
You can't go stand on tape for playing games. But that's why I like Barkley and Shaq and those guys, because they'll say it. Kenny and Ernie kind of keep it modest, and they kind of like keep it professional. It's a good little balance, man. But yeah, getting back to that game though, the Lakers are in trouble. I got a ticket on
I
them.
hope you're right, man.
I want to see them win because I
I do
got this
not want to
ticket.
see
But
them
for
win
what I
again.
saw last night,
I
they're in
can't handle
trouble
that.
again. I think Memphis might mow them, man, because those guys are hyped and they're young, but they will be missing the big fella, Steven Adams. They're going to
Yeah.
really miss him. They're going to miss him. He brings a lot to the table that they're going to need for the playoffs. So, I'm not going to get
Yeah.
overhype on it.
And,
I'm going to look at the
yeah.
whole
He
story.
didn't play a lot in the playoffs last season.
That's
He
true.
got played off the floor pretty quickly. Now, of
But
course, it's
is
still 12
is
minutes.
Brandon Clark? He's gone for the season.
Yeah.
Oh, now that's big. Yeah, that's big.
The
That's big.
combination's big. The thing is, will Jaren Jackson get in foul trouble right off the bat? I wouldn't be
That's
surprised.
the thing. If he doesn't, he can be the best player on the court.
Yeah.
And if he can be that, and where Ja can just do his thing, then they're going to be in trouble because Memphis has so much speed and athleticism. And I still feel like even though with the trades, the Lakers got younger and a little bit smarter, they're still not that athletic. You know what I mean? So um, we'll see how it goes because the game does slow down in the playoffs, and who knows, it might turn to a half court thing and they pound them, but I feel like this is just the wrong matchup for LeBron at this stage in his career because he's going to get some guys who are going to tell him every play how old he is and can't wait to like just smack him and like we're going to send you into retirement, old man. So that's the thing that he'll be facing with Memphis. He's dealing with some cocky, arrogant kids, the kids who love to beat up the old guys. So it's going to be a very interesting one. A lot of people saying Grizzlies in 6, so we'll see.
All right. Let's jump into tonight's games.
Yep.
Should be a lot of fun. The Bulls out the +6. We talked about it yesterday, right? How key that 6 is.
Yep.
And, hey, another good job by the bookmakers because I feel like this would have been a great opportunity to take Toronto at that shorter number or even that opening number. But a lot of people felt that way. Interesting tidbit here. The last time these two teams played in Toronto, the ending was at 6. The final score was 104 to 98,
98. Yep.
which is why you see the lowest total that we've seen so far on the board and even including this weekend's games. The total tonight is 213. The next lowest you're going to see is a 215 in that Knicks Cavaliers that's going to take place on Saturday. So, this is an interesting spot. Here's another fun fact for you, for those leaning towards the under. Both unders cashed last night. So obviously there'll probably be a little more underexposure for the books tonight. Since adding Pat Bev, right, you got to give him credit. The Chicago Bulls actually have a better defensive rating than a Toronto Raptors team that is very good defensively as well. So even though we think of the Bulls, right, as this all offense team, they've been playing really good defense since they've made the addition of Pat Bev in the buyout market. So Bulls are +6 here. It's getting to the spot, hey, at that 4.5 that it opened at, I like Toronto. Now I think it's Bulls or pass, and I like the under as well. And I know you got a prop for the ball and parlay, so we'll save that. But what do you think of the game overall here?
Under. It's the only way to go. They went under the last 4 times. They're two of the best defensive teams. I think the Raptors are fourth in the league in points allowed, and the Bulls are seventh. in the league at points allowed. It's going to be grimy, going to be gritty. My least favorite team to watch in the NBA is the Raptors. I never watch their games. I don't know why. I just don't like watching them play. And um, I know they have a great home court advantage. They are one of the better home teams throughout the years at home in the playoffs. They tend to pound losing road teams. They're 7-1 against the spread in their last 8 games against teams with losing road record, and they're also 3-0 in their last 4 games against a team with a losing straight up record. So they tend to beat teams who aren't good on the road. But like I told you earlier, just the playoffs. The playoffs change everything. And when you look at both of these teams, the two best players for the playoffs are on the Bulls team. DeRozan and Levine. They're made for half court ball. They're the two guys you could just give them the ball and say go get a basket. Whereas in the Raptors have to play cohesively. Pascal Siakam is up and down. He can go get a bucket, but he's the only one. Everyone else has to play off each other and look to get an open 3-pointer. Scotty Barnes is another one. He can create opportunities for his teammates, but he's not a great finisher. So I still would say that the top two players in this game will be on the Bulls squad. So if I'm gonna take anything, I'm like you. I'm taking those 3 baskets. I'm gonna take the Bulls +6. I'm gonna take the two better players with Levine and DeRozan that I know can get a bucket. I'm gonna take DeRozan, who's the best player in Raptors history, coming back to his old stomping ground and always being motivated when he goes in that building, especially in a game like this, the playoffs. I'm gonna take an excited and always motivated playoff time Patrick Beverly. He's going to get under people's skin. He might not score a lot of points, but he's going to do all the dirty work. He's going to keep his team engaged. He's going to make sure that he pisses off the best players on the other team too. So and get under their skin. So I like the Bulls a lot. I would not be surprised if the Bulls money line this game and win it straight up. But for sure, I lean the under. And like I told you, I also have a play for the ball and parlay on a player prop.
And we're yesterday, right? We were opposite. I had actually submitted an article
Hmm.
writing the same thing as your ball and parlay pick.
Hmm.
So that's going to be as be on my page at Spread Astaire. It'll be it's probably printed already. I got to tweet
Oh,
it out.
awesome. Well, good. We
But
can
yeah,
both speak
we're
about it
thinking the
then. That's
exact
great.
same.
We're thinking
Yeah.
exactly the same. Great.
So,
Yep.
but before we do that, let's talk about the Oklahoma City Thunder, who are +5.5. They're in New Orleans. They're taking on the Pelicans. The total here, 226.5. I think this one's got a way better chance to go over than the
Yeah.
last one, even though it's 13.5 points higher. I think that both these teams are going to get out to run. They also know each other well. The Pelicans are 3-1 against the Thunder this season, and most recently they played in March, where the Pelicans got the win in the Smoothie King Center down there in New Orleans. Interesting spot here, though, right? We talked about the best half-court player being on the underdog in the last game. Feel it's the
Yeah.
same way. In a
Yeah.
close game, I think I like Shea to get buckets in the half court, even a little more than Brandon Ingram, although Brandon Ingram has been playing fantastic. The question is, can his supporting cast keep up, right? He doesn't have a veteran like CJ McCollum. He's relying on another guy, a running mate that's still learning with him, Josh Giddey, a player who's been doing well, racking up assists lately. They didn't look good together. They're finally starting to figure it out. Jalen Williams, number 12 pick overall, has been fantastic for the Thunder. And if Paolo wasn't so good, he would have had a rookie of the year mentioned, but he'll probably finish number 2 in the balloting, and rightfully so. He's been all around a great player. The Pelicans probably have more depth here, though, right? Because when they go to the bench, I like the players that the Pelicans bring off more. Of course, the Pelicans have great two-way players, such as Trey Murphy and Herb Jones. Pelicans seem rightfully favored here, but another one, man, I think it's Thunder or pass here. I like them to keep it close, and they might even have the athleticism to get this outright. The Pelicans have done well against them so far this season, though. One reason to be concerned. Also, the Pelicans do have experience in this format. They won 2 games last year to qualify for that 8th seed and push Phoenix to the limit in that first round series. Whereas this will be the Thunder's first time kind of experiencing this one-and-done format. What are your thoughts here when the Thunder take on the Pelicans?
We've been on the same page on all of our games up to this one for 2 days straight. I think that the
I don't love this
Pelicans.
plus 5.5 either. So
Yeah,
if you
I
if
think
you
the
make a good,
Pelicans roll them.
you could swear change my mind. You could
Yeah,
sway me here.
yeah, I gotta sway you because the reason why is I do agree that SGA is awesome and half court has a game that's built for it, but his running mates are not going to be ready for this moment.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you have a New Orleans team that's a better team, and um, like you said, they've been in this situation before twice, and I really like their coach. I think they have an advantage with Willie Green over OKC's coach in his first playoff situation and just a really young roster. OKC's really just happy to be there. New Orleans feel like they were supposed to be there, and almost like, what the hell are we doing? Having to be in this playing situation again.
Right.
Um, I just think the New Orleans at home is a really electric environment. We know how Louisiana is. Louisiana loves the sports. They're going to be packed in there. They're going to be loud. I think that they're going to get on OKC, and they'll be able to cover the points at the end of the game through fouling and things like that. Because that's another thing with OKC's coach. I've noticed at the end of games he kind of fouls a lot. He fouls. He's one of those younger guys who starts playing the percentages kind of early, and say they're down five with 40 seconds left. He's one of the few coaches in the NBA who starts fouling, who doesn't say let's just D up because he doesn't feel like they can stop anyone. So I think that they get through the number. I think Brandon Ingram's the best player tonight, and then CJ McCollum does what he always does in the playoffs. And it's just too many veterans. I think Trey Murphy has a big night tonight for the Pelicans as well. And I just think it's the perfect matchup for the Pelicans. It's a team that they're familiar with. They've had a lot of success with. They're coming into their home environment. And like I said, OKC, they're way behind the ears, man. This is their first time ever stepping on this stage before, and we don't know how people are going to react on this stage until they're on the stage. So with it being under 6 points, and we know about the fouling through six, I got to lay the 5.5 with the Pelicans at home. And I feel like Brandon Ingram is still the best player on the court. And I don't see anyone on OKC being able to slow him down. Jalen Williams is an awesome player, man. I followed him at Santa Clara. And I used to be telling people about him, like, man, it's a dude at Santa Clara is like 6'9". He can handle the rock. He shoots threes. He plays D. And I'm glad to see that he's getting his shine at OKC. It's actually another kid that's coming behind him, Podrosky, I think is how you say his name, man. This kid, lefty, he's going to do the same thing. He's going to be a really good NBA player for Santa Clara. He can really stroke the three. He's a great playmaker and has great vision. And their coach, Sinback, is one of the older coaches that's coached a lot of places, and he's doing a really good job over there, implement right way to play to these kids and making them pro ready. So I wasn't surprised with Jalen Williams, and then they have another Jalen Williams who's pretty good out of Arkansas as well. So that
Mm-hmm.
team has a really bright future. But I don't think the Gideon crew are ready to give SGA the help that he's going to need. Dort and those guys, I don't think that they're ready to go to New Orleans. If they were at home, OKC is a wonderful home team. They have an electric environment. Another small market teams, the gyms, they feel really tight and they're really packed, and it's the biggest thing to do in the area that night. And New Orleans, believe me, they're going to be at the Pelicans game deep. You're going to see Lil Wayne and people like that at the game, Currency and all their different artists, and it's going to be a really special night. So expect the Pelicans to be fired up and covered tonight.
Fantastic. Let's move right into the ball and parlay. And we talked about it earlier. You sent me a play, and I said, well, doesn't that work out well? Because I've already written, about 400 words on this topic and why I agree with you. So why don't you go ahead and give out a prop, and then I've got a total for the people. But I'm going to go ahead and piggyback off your prop, too, because I agree with you 100%.
You could actually go because you put in a lot more writing than I have on. What I do know is that the Raptors are going to be really concentrating on stopping Levine and stopping DeRozan at the elbow. Nick Nurse is very familiar with his game, and the Bulls have also been running their offense through Belichick after the All-Star break a lot more. He's a very versatile player. He can really pass well. He's one of the original European bigs who could step out and hit a three and play. That seems like it's one on every team now, but he was one of the first, man, when he was with Orlando, and he's still a really good player. He's actually went over 20 points 5 of the last 9 games. Also, he's averaged about 19 points per game over his last 10 games if you take out the game where he didn't even really play the last game because they were resting their starters. I think they played like the first half and he had 8. But Vujacic is a really good player, and I think that 17.5 is pretty low for him. I expect him to eclipse that, and I think that he'll get a lot of usage. So I really like that. So going to piggyback off and let the people know why we're rolling with Vujacic, man, and tell them where your write-up is as well.
A lot of things that you already mentioned. 19 points over the last 10 games, not to mention 19 points and 10 rebounds in the 3 games that the Bulls played against the Raptors this season. Let's look at what they tried to do, and we're going to go to the most recent game because that's when Jakob Poeltl was in the lineup, and he's one of those older centers, right? That's really good defense, almost like Walker Kessler in Utah, right? Or really, really good defensively in the paint. A really good post defender, and he's great at rotating to rim protect as a help man. What he doesn't want to do is leave that paint. And you see him start to get lost when he moves out there, right? Because he's not quick enough to stay in front of people, but he can't help get those defensive boards. So he's going to stay back. And they took advantage of it. They're going to run a 5-out offense, right? You talked about Vukovic is good on the elbow, but he can also go all the way to the 3-point line. And that's really going to give them a lot of problems. So they're either going to have to put Poeltl on someone else, right, and move Siakam out there, which once again isn't the best matchup for the guy that you expect to be your offensive engine, right? Yeah. So I think he's going to get a lot of open shots tonight, and that's the way that it was in the game. The one game that they played with Poeltl on the floor earlier this season is they brought Vukovic out a lot, and that was to make Poeltl feel uncomfortable. What does that do? It also opens things up for the man you just mentioned, Zach LaVine. Why do they want Vukovic out there? So Zach LaVine doesn't have to worry about one of the best rim protectors in the league rolling over when he beats his man off the dribble, which inevitably he will because we've seen how fast he is, and he's got that straight line burst. So strategically, it means a lot for Vukovic to be outside. And historically, we've seen that they've already run it to success. So, to me, I like that play more than anything else. If you're only making one bet tonight, right, this is, I think, the bet, right? Take Vukovic over 17.5 points. We talked about it earlier, but I'll just touch on I'm going under again. We cashed 2 unders last night, and we saw, man, this is a different atmosphere. And you've talked about it before, right? And it bothers you a lot more than it bothers me. But the level of defense is completely different than anything that we've seen in the regular season, save a couple ABC games, right, with the Sixers and the Bucks, where, you know, everybody was watching, right, and they're big games that the teams are hyped up for. You don't see this level of defense very often during the regular season. We also have one of the highest scoring seasons in NBA history, right? So I don't want to say that these totals are artificially inflated, but they are inflated, right? I mean, you've never seen so many 234s on the board. It almost felt like 230 became the new 220. If you've been handicapping NBA for the last 5 years, what you saw at 220 in 2016, 2017, that's a 230 now, right? Yeah. It's tough for them to get low, right? But we talked about it last night. I had a 30-point edge on a game that had a total of 233, and I still had 30 points to spare going into overtime. This game's total is 213, 2 of the best defenses in the league. So even though we like Vukovic to go over, we like the full game to go under.
All right, so Spread is giving out the under, where we both are, the under on the Bulls at 213. We're also giving you Vujacic to go over 17.5. And we also, I think, like the Bulls, right? Bulls +6 is a play. And I like as a play the Pelicans -5.5. So those are going to be my 4 plays tonight. And I'm sure the Spread will be on the same ones. Hey, guys, we appreciate you guys tuning into the wagering world. We're going to take off tomorrow because it's no basketball, but we'll be back Friday. And we'll have a special guest in there. We'll have our guy Ski, Hakeem Profit in. And he'll be talking some NBA playoffs with us. Anything for the people before we get out of this, Spread?
No, we're excited for Friday, and Ski can rub it into me that the Lakers are still alive.
All right, guys. We'll see you guys on Friday. Best of luck to y'all.